February 19th,
All right, we're live in 15 here. Good evening and welcome to Talkin Sports. I'm Mike Tanzini. If you listen to us on WNYO, you'll hear us recap games, but on the television side, we're talking sports issues. Tonight we'll discuss the 2014 Sochi Winter Olympics, and here to break down the games and some of the issues surrounding the games is Connor Corcoran and Tim Mulhopt. Guys, welcome aboard.
Thanks for having us, Mike.
Good to be here, Mike, as always.
Well, it's obviously a pleasure to have you here. You know, the Winter Olympics only coming, every so often, every 2 years, and hockey's a big thing in this Winter Olympics, so we'll kind of start off with that. So the USA team has really had an impressive Olympics so far. They had a game today defeating the Czech Republic 5-2. They've looked impressive over the past few games. So we'll start off with Connor here. Maybe what specifically is working well for this U.S. team?
Well, their offense has been absolutely outstanding so far this 2-week season so far, really, in Sochi, Russia. Phil Kessel, James Van Riemsdyk, like really leading the way. Two Toronto Maple Leafs back in the National Hockey League, really taking the offense upon themselves, and they're running away here in the Sochi Olympics. And then defensively, they've been solid as well. Cam Fowler, Paul Martin, guys anchoring that blue line, done a nice job there for Coach Biles and his team. And you also look at the goaltending. Jonathan Quick has been outstanding all season, the LA Kings goaltender. Won the Stanley Cup a few seasons ago, and he's playing out of his mind good lately.
Now, Tim, I know Connor discussed some of the things that he thinks working. Do you see anything else, or do you agree with Connor on that?
Yeah, I mean, breaking down some of the numbers, and I don't know if it's the water the United States brought with them to Sochi. I mean, we'll get to that later. They're certainly not drinking the Sochi water, but both the men's and women's teams are averaging 5 goals a game through 4 games in this tournament. They've been outstanding offensively, as Connor mentioned. 3 players in the top 10 in terms of the men's side of the scoring points-wise in the tournament thus far. And really, defensively, they haven't been much worse. I mean, 1.47 goals allowed a game. Power play has been strong at 27%, just about a little over that. And I mean, PK at 90%. You're going to win a lot of games that way. It's basic fundamental hockey. They're doing it very well. We saw today against the Czech Republic, their forecheck really came into their own, scoring 5 goals to Czechs just 2. And Czech Republic, very good team that the United States was able to dispatch. And again, as Connor mentioned, Jonathan Quick playing very, very well, 93, almost 94% save percentage thus far, and really he's helped carry that team even in that shootout against Russia we saw a couple really last week.
And I'll talk a second about that game, because really that was a really impressive game, the U.S., and I think that was kind of a momentum builder. I think that kind of was sending them a message saying, you know what, hey, we're taking this seriously and we're contending for a gold medal.
That was the T.J. Oshie show in that one. The shootout, really running away with it was T.J. Oshie. Had a lot of success with the St. Louis Blues in the National Hockey League. And really, Coach Biles going right to Oshie after the third shooter went for the U.S. I believe he went total of 6 times, with 4 for 6 successfully against Sergei Bobrovsky, the former Vienza winner for the NHL last season. Really, that was a big upset for them, and really kind of put Russia on a bad situation for them, as they were knocked out earlier today against Finland in a 3-1 loss. A really big upset for them. So you really wonder what the U.S. has really done to really bring over this offensive surge that they've had. And they haven't had the offense. They've done a nice job holding it defensively.
Now, Tim, let's talk about something a little bit different. Obviously, these guys, most of the U.S. team is used to playing in the NHL, and quite frankly, a lot of other teams use a lot of NHL players. But the rules are a little bit different. The rink is certainly a different size. So how do you think the different rules come into play at these Olympics? I know the players are used to playing hockey, but is there a significant difference or a big advantage that maybe a player who could skate faster, or maybe a player who could shoot faster? So what kind of advantages do those play in?
I mean, I think to an extent there is somewhat of an impact, but at the same time, really looking at it, you're talking more of these differences you see even in this college level here. I think it's a greater difference at the less experienced level here in Sochi. Like you said, all these guys know how to skate, all these guys know how to shoot. Certainly speed, the faster guys can benefit guys who can use their game a little bit more to their advantage, certainly. But overall, I think the difference is ultimately minimal. You'd probably see more of a complaint from some of these coaches and players if they felt that there was an advantage either way. And to my understanding, there really hasn't been. And it's something that's just been, the Olympic standard has been the Olympic standard for a while now. And really, I don't think it's all that much of a difference maker.
Now, Connor, Canada winning today, 2-1. Obviously we are pretty close to Canada here, so I think it is fair to maybe talk about their team. And quite frankly, they're a very impressive team. And if the U.S. does make it to a situation where they'll have to play Canada, how do you think that'll play out?
It's interesting because Canada lost today. They lost to their matchup with a 2-1 win over Latvia. They lost John Tavares off their roster, one of the leading point scorers in the NHL, and really came in with high expectations here with his leadership and his young scoring ability that he has with the New York Islanders and translating that over to the Canadian Olympic roster team. So it'll be interesting to see how they rebound from that. I know Coach Babcock, the head coach of the Canadian squad, hasn't been too pleased with the offensive output so far from Canada this season. You have guys in that roster like Jonathan Toews. Defensively, you go guys like Paul Martin on the defensive blue line for the Canadiens, and Carey Price in between the pipes. And they really haven't put it all together for a big offensive team that they should be producing, maybe even equal to the U.S., like 5 goals, 6 goals a night. They've only been producing 2 or 3.
Tim, moving on to you now. Let's say there's a situation, like we said to Connor, if they do play each other, who do you think has the advantage? I mean, we saw kind of the rematch a while ago, Ryan Miller, obviously a tough outing in that one. And the U.S. probably, as we see here, the U.S. team scoring on Russia here was a big victory. So if these two teams, Canada and U.S., it's kind of a heated rivalry. I mean, yeah, the borders are right there, of course, but there's a lot more to this than people see.
Well, right, these two teams will meet this Friday, 12 p.m. noon, I believe Eastern Standard Time here in the United States. They will play for the semifinals. Last time in the Winter Olympics, these two teams met in the finals for that gold medal, and Canada able to win with that Sidney Crosby game winner in overtime, beating Ryan Miller. We probably won't see Miller in that game. I'd be surprised. Jonathan Quick has gotten 3 of the 4 starts to this point and has really given the United States no reason to change that. But certainly, yeah, the United States-Canada hockey rivalry is very, very alive, and these are really the 2 best teams in the world. If you think about it, looking at these rosters, stacking them up, I know some of the international rankings don't necessarily agree with that, but in terms of NHL talent, both of these teams came in with 25 guys from the NHL. No other teams can speak of that. Sweden, I believe, is the closest with 24. So it's really what the Olympics, I think, want to see. They're the 2 high-octane scoring teams. Canada, not so much in this tournament, but they have great defense. The United States bringing in great offense. It's something that should make for a very, very good game. Again, last time these 2 teams met in 2010 for the up in Canada, I believe, for those Winter Olympics, it was classic, all-time classic. So I think it's what everybody wanted. It wasn't in the finals this time. That would have really been the only way it could have been better. But the way the pooling worked out, we're still going to get a great one for that semifinals for the rights to go to that finals game.
Now, obviously, the U.S., I would say maybe a heavy favorite into these games so far. They made some big statements. How far do you think they could really make it? Do you envision a gold medal here with some of the statement victories that they've made so far this Olympics?
I think it's almost a gold medal or bust for this U.S. men's hockey team. I think the way they performed so far in these Olympics has been outstanding. I don't know if anybody could have predicted them to do this well, with this momentum going forward. So we'll just see how they handle those. I mean, Canada, again, you guys mentioned it, right above your border here. They're about a half-hour drive, more than a 45-minute drive from here in Oswego, New York. So they're going to get up extra early for this one. They're going to be ready to go. They're going to want to try and bring back that upset like they did back in Vancouver back in 2010. So I'm going to see what they do with that going forward. I don't know if Canada can match the offensive star power that the U.S. has offered. It'd be a big test for guys like Shea Weber to try and corral guys like James Van Riemsdyk or Phil Kessel, as we mentioned before earlier. So it's a big test for them, but you know what? I think Canada can make it a really interesting game and probably make it a very close one.
Now, Tim, maybe if you could give us a preview, maybe what's coming ahead for the U.S., for the United States coming up next few games.
Well, I mean, Canada is really the top team they're probably going to play. Sweden and Finland, no disrespect to those 2 teams, but looking at Canada's team stats, they're averaging about 3.25 goals a game. That's solid, not great, but the stat that really jumps out, less than a goal a game. They've allowed 3 goals in 4 games to this point. Carey Price has been absolutely sensational in net for these Canada, the national team for Canada. Power play is just a little bit above the United States right now at 28%, almost 29%. PK also very slightly marginally better than the United States at 90.9%. So again, it's going to be, I think this is the real medal round. I mean, here, you're not going to see a gold or silver handed out after this game, but really, these are probably the two best teams in this tournament, and really, we're going to see, it's going to come down to the wire, I think. I don't think you'll see it as some of the matchups both these teams have had in blowouts. Canada beating Austria 6-0, United States manhandling, I believe it was Slovakia earlier in this tournament. This should be a one-goal game back and forth. Should be outstanding hockey.
Now, quickly before we head to our to break here, Tim, we don't want to leave the women's hockey team out as well. They've also had a pretty impressive run.
Yeah, if you look back to their last game against Sweden, outshooting the Swedes by a margin of 72-9 for a 6-1 victory for the U.S. women's hockey team over Sweden a couple days ago in Sochi. And they really, their offense has been unbelievable. I believe they've been scoring around 4 or 5 goals per game offensively. One thing that the women's team has is the experience on the roster. Many players have returned from previous Olympic tours, Vancouver, and years before that. So it really speaks to the experience and to the veteran leadership the women's team has. And you know what? They're going to have one heck of a go-round against Canada, another matchup from Vancouver a few years ago. I'm just to see how that one turns out, to say the least.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to take our first break tonight. When we come back, we'll talk about some of the issues that are plaguing Sochi for this Olympics. It's 11:11, so make a wish. We'll be right back here on Talkin Sports on WTOP 10.
G-morning, sunshine. Wakey, wakey. Text me back. Hey, did you tell your parents about us? Let's skip first period together. Did you get all my texts? Is practice over yet? Where are you at? Are you with your friends? That's L-A-A-A-A-M-M-E-E-E. Capital X, lowercase o, capital X, lowercase o.
I love you. JK. I hate you. JK. Are you ignoring me?
We're in a huge fight right now. Is this something I did?
I can see your lights on. I'm coming over.
What'd you dream about? Me? I'm lonely. Holla back.
Holla back.
Let's try something new. Nude pics. Send me some. Text me.
Welcome back. If you wish that we were coming back on the air, I guess you got your wish there. Talkin Sports on WTOP 10, the Season 2 premiere, our second semester here on WTOP. So, guys, we've been talking about the U.S. hockey team, but now let's turn to something that's maybe not as fun to talk about. A lot of issues that are plaguing Sochi right now, starting off with even the quality of the water, the quality of the hotels. I believe one U.S. athlete had to break himself out of a hotel bathroom at one point. So we've kind of seen this in the past, cities that put these big, extravagant bids to host the Olympic Games, but really when the games come around, we see some of these issues come out. So let's Connor, let's say you're an athlete, you're an Olympic athlete coming in here. What is your reaction to seeing that you can't even drink some of the water?
Well, I mean, not only the water. I mean, these kids are living, for the men's hockey team, for example, I'm not sure how it goes for the rest of the athletes, but they're rooming 3 guys to a room off of basically one cots. And these guys walk in, and I'm not sure how they're able to get themselves ready both mentally and physically for their events. It's kind of a big question mark. And then you see the water. That's a major issue. These athletes need the spectators, people running the events, obviously need to stay hydrated. And you can't stay hydrated when you're drinking yellow water that you're not sure where it comes from. And then more issues too with electrical issues. I know a couple major journalists were tweeting as the Olympics were getting underway how their hotel rooms weren't even ready. Elevators were out of commission, and they had no place to go for the first 2 or 3 days of the Sochi Olympics getting underway. So really, it's been a really bad situation in Russia. And I'm sure they're probably going to be thinking twice about this going forward for what areas and what cities and what countries get the bid.
Well, now, Tim, let's get your perspective on this again. You know, you're an athlete coming in here. You see these conditions. Isn't this just bad publicity?
Yeah, and I mean, Russia is, they have the games right now, so they can't be too worried for the short term. Long term, I think, yeah, they got to worry about it for next time. They have some city up for bid. As we mentioned earlier, Johnny Quinn, Team USA bobsledding, had to break out of his own room. There's a picture. It's kind of horrifying. He looks like The Shining with I believe just breaking down the door there. The aftermath with a giant hole in the door. We mentioned the water. It's yellow. There were notes in the hotels that said that don't drink the water in Russian, and then in English there's something very dangerous in the water. There's pictures of it. It looks kind of like vitamin water, but no vitamin water flavor that I'd ever want to try. We have, as Connor mentioned, a couple high-profile journalists. Wayne Dre's ESPN showing a picture of a live electrical wire in his shower. Dan Wetzel of he's a New York Times bestselling author, bartering light bulbs for door handles that actually work. And multiple photos circulating of that yellow, dirty water, as I mentioned before, and stray dogs wandering the streets. And apparently the Russians have actually hired a company to come in and take care of those dogs. And we obviously can't assume too much, but there's some animal rights issues there as well, perhaps, in their efforts to try to clean up this mess.
Certainly a very, very sad situation. Almost, you don't want to laugh, but it is almost ridiculous. Just, you're hosting, you're city hosting. You're representing your country here, and with the history that Russia's had, this is kind of their way to kind of show, hey, we're kind of back in this thing, and I don't think they have. And another thing too that I want to bring up is a lot of people don't realize these big extravagant Olympic stadiums, they're usually vacant after the Olympics are over. It's not that they continue to use these things; they either tear them down or they just sit vacant.
Yeah, I know in Lake Placid, New York, Mike, after the 1980 games, they built up all these dormitories basically for these athletes to stay in. Again, at that time, the Olympics weren't as big of an event as they are now in 2014, and they actually ended up turning those dormitories into prison cells for upstate prisons, for bringing inmates up from the New York City area, which it goes to show that you're not really building for the long term. You're building for the short term. Your 2 weeks of Olympics events, that's what you're building for. And I think Sochi, if they're building buildings really in the time that the Olympics are actually going on, speaks very poorly of Russia. And as you said, Russia's already in a situation where they're getting a lot of bad publicity over the past few years, and now it's going to be more of like a laughing stock going forward. It's, as you said, serious events. You're killing dogs because there's so many stray ones running around. I know there's been a lot of activist groups getting involved in that. And we already mentioned that the issues with the water and the living arrangements made for the athletes. It's really a major concern. And I'm not sure how Russia's able to rebound after this one. With the Olympic International Committee, they're definitely going to look hard and long at these countries that want to have the idea of an Olympic event, and they really get this, show something on paper that will really sway them to avoid a situation like Russia.
Now I know that China has actually put in a bid, I believe, for the 2022 Olympics, and one of the big issues lying around that is, the air pollution, some of the issues they've had there. Do you think that maybe the Chinese or other countries moving forward bidding to host the Olympics, do you think that they can learn from Russia here? I mean, I think Russia's making a big statement here of kind of how not to run the Olympics. I mean, they'll show you that it's been, if you watch the coverage, they won't really come out and say it, but if you dig deeper, you could find these big glaring issues. Now, do you think they could be used as a standard for other countries looking to host forward?
Absolutely, and China did have recently the Summer Olympics back in 2008 in Beijing, and all memories of that seem to be relatively positive. The opening ceremony was incredible. The stadium that they were building absolutely, unique in every way in terms of architecture. So, whether it's the Chinese, whether it's the United States again, I think all these countries really have to take a page out of Russia's notebook here and know what not to do next time.
All right, well, we're going to take another break here. We come back, we will talk about another big issue that's plaguing the Russia Sochi Olympics. You're watching Talkin Sports this Wednesday on WTOP 10.
So, April,
Yeah?
you know your charger's still using energy when it's plugged into the wall, right?
Yeah, but that's not my charger. I don't even have a cell phone.
Millions of kids are using their energy wisely. What's your excuse?
Last night, Lori Capracuzzi scored 2 goals on Aliyah Brianlove. And
Joe, get out. Adam, you're in.
Lori Korpakovsky scored 2 goals on Ilya Brizgalov. Got it!
Welcome back to Talkin Sports here on WTOP 10. I'm Mike Tanzini alongside Connor Corcoran, Tim Mulhopt. Guys, moving ahead here, a big issue that's plaguing the Sochi Olympics, and this is gay rights in Sochi, something that Russia has made it very public how they feel about the situation. And I don't want to say that I don't want to say using the Olympics to kind of push that belief forward, but Connor, how do you think that how do you think Russia looks here, just coming out and saying how they feel about gay rights? And it's really not a very positive portrayal.
Yeah, it's dangerous when your presidential leader in Vladimir and Putin really wants to speak to the entire country, kind of state his feelings on what Russia feels is acceptable and what's not acceptable. I know some of the athletes that have came over to Sochi to participate in the events have made mention and tried to, I don't want to say speak out or protest the events. I know some athletes have worn, a brighter color clothing here, trying to make a point, trying to bring something across to bring awareness to what Russia's doing here, maybe some of the issues that they have. It really is a dangerous line to cross for Russia here, because you can't tell people what to do and what not to do, but you also have to be careful that what you can say and what you can't say to these athletes of all different countries, of all different backgrounds, and try and put words in their mouth.
All right, now Tim, before we go to break, quickly, how do you think this makes Russia look here?
Well, I mean, Russia's been a country since the fall of the Soviet Union that's still struggling for an identity. Certainly something that is still very much in progress. And I think whatever your opinion is, it's something that's kind of it's something that distracts from some of the games itself. And again, it's unfortunate that views are being thrown around that can discriminate against other people. That's never something you want to see. But it's something. The Olympics have always been about sports and goodwill, and I feel like that's just kind of something that is a conflict that's detracting from the overall sportsmanship. Not to discredit a movement or anything like that, but just in general, it's something that is coming up that the IOC's had to address and say, hey, no one here, no athlete that shows up in Sochi that is of that the orientation is going to be persecuted or anything along those lines. So I just feel like it's something, while it needs to be addressed, it takes away from the overall Olympic atmosphere.
All right, thank you guys for that. We're going to take one last quick break here. We'll come back, we'll wrap this thing all together, and we'll close this one out. You're watching Talkin Sports right here on WTOP 10.
How's it going? Guys, this is my cousin Rob from Michigan.
What's up?
He's a teenager.
Hey, what's totally. All right. Oh, hey, you want to slow down?
No.
Really? Huh. Hey, you know what a beautiful animal is? A horse. A horse. Yeah. Beautiful mane, unbelievable muscle tone. When it runs, it looks like poetry in motion. It's the most beautiful thing on earth. And sometimes when you feed a horse, its lips will tickle your hand. Just tickle it just a little bit. It makes me giggle sometimes. I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you don't slow down, I'm gonna bite into your head like an apple. And thanks, guys, for listening to my horse stories. I could talk about ponies all day long.
The Hollywood View is back with a brand new season and a brand new look. Join me for nonstop Hollywood coverage news right here on WTOP 10 every Tuesday at 10:30 p.m.
Get your Smokey on. If you see someone in danger of starting a wildfire, step in and make a difference. Because 9 out of 10 wildfires can be prevented.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Well, we're just almost out of time here on Talkin Sports. Remember to join us next week, and you can always follow us on Twitter at Talkin Sports MVT. You can like us on Facebook, facebook.com/TalkinSportsAsWeGo, and tune in to Talkin Sports every Sunday from 4 to 6 on the radio, WNYO. For Tim Mulhoff, for Connor Corcoran, I'm Mike Tanzini. We will be back live next week right here at 11 p.m. here on WTOP 10. Good night, Oswego.
I get to do something I love. It has nothing to do with touchdowns or titles. Everybody bring it in. I get to play a part in the life of someone just starting out. How many of you think homework is just as important as teamwork? I help keep kids in school. Good. And that's the name of the game. My name is LaDainian Thomason. I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer. Live United.
Hi, we're Real Big Fish.
And you're watching WTOP 10.
Like the number.
So what sets the rundown apart from other newscasts is that it brings students together to voice their opinions on the world's most important political issues.
There seems to be just more events going on in 2012 than there were in previous years combined.
This nation is based on the foundation that we choose the government.
Do we use 1, 2, and 3?
We work hard to bring you the most up-to-date, relevant coverage of the stories you should be following.
The country has now gone over the fiscal cliff.
Is gun control necessary? How much is too much?
Does it surprise you that it's taken this long to have a serious talk about gun control?
Students need to realize that this is the time when what's going on in Capitol Hill